I wanna be a billionaire. I ain't getting no sleep till I see a milli every week. I wanna be a billionaire. I ain't getting no sleep till I see a billy every week. I wanna be a billionaire. Billionaire. I wanna be a billionaire. Billionaire.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. I am your host, Johnny VEGAZ. Now today, we have a very special guest on my show. This man is a film director working on a movie right now about child soldiers in Liberia, and we're going to talk more about that. Ladies and gentlemen, STONZ Walters. How you doing, my brother?
Thank you very much for having me, man.
Thank you for being here, man. It's been a long time. We knew each other for a while, but we've been trying to schedule this, and we finally made it happen.
I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad we were able to, make this all work, so I'm very glad to be here.
Same.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah, man. So, I like what you're doing with the child soldiers. I definitely think it's spreading awareness and has a good message behind it. But before we touch on that, I want to talk about how you started with this path to be a filmmaker. Where are you from originally?
Well, originally I'm from Liberia. It's a small country just on the west coast of Africa.
Right.
And most people don't know, but Liberia was founded by free slaves from the United States. Hence the name Liberia, meaning liberty, freedom. So when the slaves were sent back, we landed in Liberia, and that's how the name came about in the 1800s. Yes.
Wow. Thank you for the history lesson, because I definitely didn't know that, man. That's awesome, man. So were you doing film out there, or you just were growing up?
Well, I was just growing up. So while there, I was born there in 1984, and lived with my dad, my mom. We grew up, but then we came to the States after the Civil War started in 1990. So a brutal Civil War started in the country, which caused the death of over 250,000 people, and then 1,000 more. So good, 1,000 more displaced, and so through a resettlement program that was started by the United States. As you know, we are a country that was born out of the United States. So during this situation, they started a resettlement program to bring Liberians to the United States. So I actually came here as a refugee.
Wow.
Yes, we made our way to Ghana, and then we took off from there to the States. I got here in 2009.
Oh, you came in 2009?
Yeah, why am I messing up the date? I came in 1999. There you go, 1999.
Oh, okay.
It's been about 20 years now.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay. Well,
yes.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Definitely. So you came here with your whole family? Everybody came together?
Yes, I did come with my grandparents. I did come here with my grandparents. We stayed in Baltimore a little bit, and then I moved to Connecticut. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so you spent time in the East Coast.
Right.
I'm originally from New York, so I kind of know that area.
Right. So,
Well,
and then after high school, there I went to Insona High School. After that, I went to college, studied criminal justice. But while there, I was facing some financial problems, paying for books and just school fees and other stuff. So then I decided to join the Navy. So I joined the United States Navy after 2.5 years. And while there, long story short, I did 4 years in the Navy, came out, did another 4 in the reserve, and then I went to New York Film Academy. But when I first came here, the entertainment industry has always been on my mind.
Right.
But I wanted to be an actor, like every other kid.
Right.
I want to be an actor. Nobody knew the specifics of the actual filmmaking process, so we all want to be an actor. And I came here when I went to school with my GI Bill, and when I saw the filmmaking package and the acting package was just acting. The filmmaking package included producing, directing, writing, editing, the whole 9 yards, including some acting.
Right.
So I decided I would use my money to do more, to get more.
Right.
So I did the filmmaking package, and I fell in love with it, and I just enjoyed controlling the set and being the guy in charge. So I kind of focused on directing.
That's awesome. So is this film your first film?
No, I do have a film right now that is on Amazon Prime. It's called The Forgiven.
Okay.
Yeah, The Forgiven is about a priest who used to be a murderer.
Wow.
His past comes to haunt him when his wife and daughter goes missing in exchange for his public confession.
Is this a true story?
This is inspired by a true story.
Okay.
So it's something that happened, and then I took that and made it my own, because, as you know, the Civil War in Liberia, there were lots of people who fought in the war,
right?
And they did some things that they shouldn't have done. but after the war, most of them reconciled and claimed to have found God. And some of them are actually pastors and missionaries, and they're preaching to people
Right.
about forgiveness. And so there are lots of people who has actually taken that path to forgiveness and becoming these preachers. So I took the story of just a random person with no one specific in mind, just the situation itself. But I said, what if one of them were in the States here as a priest, and one day their family just went missing, and it's one of their victims from the past who is trying to expose them for who they really are.
Wow. Yeah, I gotta check that out. And it's called Forgiven?
The Forgiven.
The Forgiven. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I'm starting to notice that people are directing more inspired by true story or true events type of films or series. I feel that resonate more with people, being that it's something that actually happened rather than promoting fantasy.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on there. But I want to go back a little bit, because you were talking about, wanting to be an actor and then going to the Navy and stuff like that. But you set everything up set yourself up for success by joining the Navy and getting that solid foundation to be able to fund and pursue your dreams.
Absolutely.
So what kind of got you in that entrepreneurial mindset back then, and prepared you for life going forward?
I've always wanted to be a better person. I know I came from a country. My dad was very smart. I knew I came from a country where there was not too many opportunities, because my entire childhood was shattered by the Civil War. So just being a kid, I really didn't experience that, because we had to grow up very fast in the middle of the Civil War. As you've seen on TV, there are kids as young as 6, 8 are turned into child soldiers.
So you one of those kids?
No, I wasn't. Fortunately for me, I did not become a soldier, but I had to live that life of being there and surviving and seeing those things happen. So I'm very grateful that I wasn't recruited to be one of these soldiers, because I believe God had a better plan for me.
Right.
But I came here and I just always wanted to be better. I watched all of my family, my sisters, my brothers. I'm pretty much the first one right now in my immediate family with a college degree.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I knew I just needed to excel, and I could only do that by pushing myself.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you started with the Navy.
Yes. So I started with the Navy.
How many years did you do?
I did do 4 years of active duty there.
Okay.
In the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
You're very welcome. I served aboard the USS John F. Kennedy. I was one of the decommissioning crew there. So we decommissioned the Kennedy in 2007. And then I went on to the Middle East, where I got aboard the USS Baton, which is an LHD. We deployed Marines.
Right.
And when I got back, my last ship was the USS Carl Vinson. Yes.
Okay. So while you were in the Navy during this time, did you still have that passion to pursue film going forward, or were you solely focused on the Navy?
I was entirely focused on coming to Hollywood and becoming an actor.
Okay.
To the point where the school where I graduated from, the New York Film Academy, was actually sending me brochures when I was in Bahrain.
Wow.
When I was on my ship out there, I would receive my letters, because all of our letters that came to our homes got forwarded to us on the boat.
Right.
So I was receiving brochures from New York Film Academy, and that kept my mind going the whole time, just looking at it and seeing the world that I really wanted to be in, and that just kept me focused with that. And when I got out of the Navy, I knew I was coming straight to Hollywood. I'm telling you, I did not even go home.
Oh, wow.
I packed everything in my car, and drove from Virginia straight to LA.
How long did that take you?
That took me 3 days. 3
It took
days.
me 5 from Florida.
Yeah.
5 days.
I had a U-Haul attached, one of those little U-Haul boxes attached to the back of my truck. So you can only do 55 with that once you have that. And so that's how I drove across the entire country, about 3 days. Yes.
Wow, that's an interesting story, man. I just like the fact that you knew you wanted to get to Hollywood, but you knew the Navy was gonna give you that security,
Absolutely.
to go forward. And a lot of people don't think like that sometimes. They kind of just want to jump the gun,
Right.
but then they end up living out their car in an unfortunate situation, or end up going back because they didn't come prepared.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you had that mind frame going. Initially, you
Right.
had a leg up.
Right.
So that's good, man. So when you got to LA, tell me, how difficult was it for you to kind of get your start, get things rolling, network, and begin this filmmaking dream of yours?
The networking part was the difficult part because when I came, thank God for the post 9/11 GI Bill. That right there covers you once you're in school. If you're in school, the only difficulty I had in the beginning was that when I registered for school, the VA thought that I was registering as an active duty personnel.
Right.
So meaning I will still be active while going to school. So they did not set up my BAH, which pays for your rent and stuff. So my first few months, I was struggling because I flew across the country. I drove across the country with everything. Had an apartment all set up. Now the money that needed to be coming to pay the rent wasn't coming for the first couple of months. So I called them and said, "What's going on?" They're like, "Well, you're in school, right?" "Yes." "Well, so that's it." I'm like, "No, I'm actually."
What do you mean that's it?
Right, I'm actually discharged
Yeah.
from the military. So post 9/11 supposed to kick in.
Right.
So for that reason, my first few months I wasn't focused. Even my teachers thought I wasn't serious. But if you don't have a place to stay, and that kind of worries you.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I was leaving class early, going to the VA to go and talk to them, and they just couldn't see me. I remember one of my instructors, Adam Nimoy, who is actually the son of Leonard Nimoy, Captain
Okay.
Spock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's his son. He was my directing teacher. And
Sweet. That's
and I
cool.
remember him just talking to me like, "Why are you late? Aren't you military? You should be on time." I said,
Right.
"Sir, I didn't really tell them that my living situation wasn't good yet."
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
said, I got some situations going on. I got to catch on to LA's traffic and stuff, so I'm running late."
But he understood.
But end of story, they ended up, fixing it, and then they send some money to the school for me, and they gave me what was left over, and that got me going until the actual process was on. But apart from that, everything else went smoothly once I crossed that bridge. School was going on. I didn't have to worry about my rent. Fortunately for me, like most people, for the entire time I was in school, rent was taken care of. School, everything else was taken care of.
From your time that was spent in the Navy, the benefits of that.
The benefits, which is
Okay.
the GI Bill, the post 9/11 GI Bill.
Okay, so you didn't have to have the 9 to 5 job,
No.
going forward. It's just GI Bill, film.
Covers everything, film. So that kept me very focused since I didn't have any other situation. But then after I graduated, when you graduate, then all of that support stops. Yes.
I was getting to that. I was like,
Yeah, and that was a reality check for me because now I just graduated school and the first thing I want to do is make film.
Right.
But so my mind is not thinking go and do something else, go get a different job to be paying the bills. Until then, you have to give your entire attention, your undivided attention if you want to succeed in this.
Right.
But then it started to get tough. I was hired by my school to actually be a teacher's assistant. So I was there helping, and I worked there a little bit for some time. But then I started to hear a lot of stories about some teachers who graduated from there,
Right.
and they've been there 20 years later, 15 years later, 10 years later, and never actually went out to pursue what they went to school for, because the school really does take care of you.
Right.
When you work there, they pay you well. It's a family school, very good school, New York Film Academy. So it's easy to get comfortable
Right.
because
Because
the
you feel secure.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the paycheck is good, but then you just graduated from there to go be a filmmaker or an actor, and then 10 years later you find yourself still there. You haven't even stepped out. So I needed to.
Yeah, it's
leave.
crazy how you do that, man.
Right.
Because it's like some students they're interested in the testimonials of other students that did it, and
Right.
that motivates them to go.
Right.
But when you got somebody who graduates for something but then works there and stays there, it's
Yeah,
like,
stays there.
what was the point?
What
in
was
the
the
beginning?
point?
Yeah.
So I started fighting to leave from there. Eventually I left, but I still didn't have a job. So then I ended up working with my military background, started doing some security work.
Okay.
So I would do security here and there, take care of some Disney Channel kids and do other things in different places with different companies. And eventually
Armed security?
some were armed, but then some were just regular. And then from there, I was networking at the same time, speaking with people, talking to people. And I went over at BET, working there, and then I made a lot of connections there.
You were, what was your position there?
Well, I
Security
went,
still?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. And then when I made a lot of connections inside, and my connections started to grow. So the company was like, well, conflict of interest, because BET kind of likes you with what you do, and they're willing to support you. And I don't want to say names in there, but they actually
That's fine.
got one of they actually told the head lady about me, and so things started to go well. And because of conflict of interest, I had to leave. And you know what? I went to the Apex building. That's where they brought me.
Yeah.
And I came to Apex working the front desk.
Right.
Apex. And of course, the Apex building got a whole bunch of industry personnel here and business people and good people. And then through that, long story short, I met Michael Sean Erickson, who is a writer. And we became friends, and he got to know who I was and on what I'm capable of. So I showed him my thesis film that I did in film school.
Okay.
And I won some awards from that film called The Last Decision of President Dewey.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And when he saw the quality and how it was shot, he said, well, you're a good filmmaker. I said, thank you. Well, you know what? One day he calls me and he goes, I want to start a company. I want to shoot something. We met at the Los Angeles Athletic Club. We had a meeting. He said, I'll finance if you do production. I said,
Let's do it.
let's do it. I'm in. So I had this story I had written about the priest who used to be a murderer.
Right.
But at the time it was called Only with Forgiveness. And I shot like a rough one, a piece, and I showed it to him. He said, you know what? Let's polish this script some more. Let's make it a lot longer, an hour and a half, because the first one was 45 minutes. Let's make it a lot longer. And from there, you know, I will finance it and we'll do it. So I went and polished the script. I brought him in as a co-writer. So, you know, he did some things on it together. And we went into production in 2016.
And that's awesome. Now it's on a major platform.
Major platform, Amazon Prime.
That's awesome, man. Yes. So with the Amazon Prime situation, if a filmmaker up and coming has a film, what is the process to go put it in on Amazon? Do they just submit, and how is the money split? Like, how does that work?
There is no direct path to how anything happens in Hollywood. Everyone will tell you a story. I got the money first, then I got the actors. Sometimes you get the actor first, then you get the money. Sometimes you can get distribution because they saw the script before you even go to shoot. So, but my path here was, I wrote a script titled War Brothers. War Brothers made its way to Akon.
Okay.
Long story short, made its way to Akon. Akon's on a set shooting The American King here in LA.
Right.
I get to the set while we're talking. One of the guys working on the set works with a distribution company. All right. So we're talking. I tell him about The Forgiven. He said, "Hey, we're always looking for content. Blah blah blah." Showed me the stuff. Let me see what it looks like.
Okay.
I showed him the trailer. Showed him the posters. Everything. He said, "Hey, I like it." He goes up, takes it to his boss, IT and distribution. They like it. Boom, we sign a contract. We'll distribute your film. So we signed the contract, and it's a 50-50 contract. So whatever we make, we split down with them, because they did the advertisement, the posters, and we have DVD copies as well. So they paid for all that. So we split down with them. And next thing, the film was first in Walmart. So hard copies inside of Walmart's store and on Walmart's website. Okay. And then it went onto Amazon's website. So they pretty much did all that work. I don't even know how they got into, but they got. He has a major connection also because he distributes a lot of film, and I believe he has a connection with Sony as well. So it's easy for him to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I got this thing." But I guess the film was doing so well, hard copy is being bought off of Amazon Prime. They just say, "Hey, we're going to put it on the streaming platform," and that's how we made it onto Prime.
Okay, so you solely kind of just focus on the film producing and let them handle the business and the marketing, promotion stuff?
Yes, but I still had to go out and find the distributor. Okay. So I was the one who, I just kept on grinding. Right. Asking questions and, making phone calls, and I just never stopped. The film was done and it was just in the hard drive. Right. Now, what do? We got it edited. A couple of friends of mine from BET, through my connection, edited the film. So those were really good editors who worked, and I'm in no way using BET to promote this film. Right. But that's where I met them. And so they decided to edit the film for me. They did that, and then I just kept on going around. Now we needed to get it out there. We didn't know how. We were going to go to some people, and but long story short, I met this guy who then showed me another guy, and here we are on Prime.
That's what's up, man. Yes. Now, you also mentioned that you received an award for a film, correct? Yes. Now, how does one, get considered for the award? Do they have to, kind of get their attention with the numbers that it does, or do you submit for consideration? Like, how does that work?
You submit for consideration. The website withoutabox.com. So I signed up for that, and you get every festival in the world notification on Without a Box.
Okay.
It don't matter what you have, short film, feature films, whatever, and you can submit to any festival. It costs some money. I was able to put in the NYLA Film Festival where I won an award, and a few other festivals that I could afford to pay for.
Right.
But the film was really, really good, and which it screened over at Warner Brothers. Yes, and I had a lot of people showed up for the screening, and I got great reviews, and that actually gave me a step up when I was working at BET, because I showed it to one of the senior vice president there, and she saw the film, and she goes, "Wow, you directed that." Here's a guy who was working security at the desk.
Yeah.
They just think it's just a guy who's working at the desk, and now you saw him produce this kind of project. And the next day they're in a meeting with the CEO in New York.
Right.
And you know who that is. Right? And she mentions, "Hey, I was scared. Here's a great filmmaker." Everyone in that room, in their morning meeting, all the producers, all the PAs, everybody. So here I am sitting at the desk. Next thing I knew, after the meeting, everyone's coming from inside. Like, "Hey man, Tim, I just told everybody you're a producer. Hey, I gotta see your film. I gotta see your film. I gotta see it. I gotta see it." So all these executives are coming to me. "Hey, Tim just told everybody your film is, and the release in New York." In our meeting, she told. So I never told anybody at BET I was a filmmaker.
Right.
Until Timber, she just took an interest, started talking to me like, "Hi, just being nice."
Yeah.
And then that's how she got to know who I was. Like, okay. I told her about my film, and she said, "Well, you should give me a copy. Let me see it." So I took a copy to her office, and next thing I knew I'm making 10, 15 more copies for everyone inside because they want to see it.
Wow.
And I remember 2 people came to me, and when they saw the project, like tears were in their eyes, and very big executive in the place there.
Yeah.
And they came like, "Wow, you did." I said, "Yes." And so that gave everyone a whole different look
Right.
at me, and even some of the guys in there would come to me, like editors were editing, and they would ask my opinion. I'll go inside and look at some of the shows.
Wow.
There. But not to mention too much names, and not to stay too much on it, but yeah, the film, it's a great film. I'll actually give you a copy so you can see.
Please do. I would love to see that, man.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me about Child Soldiers. What inspired that story, and inspired you to do a film on it?
Okay, so Child Soldier is a documentary series.
Okay.
That I'm shooting, that I shot. And I actually wrote that story sitting at my desk at BET. That's when I wrote the story.
How long ago was this?
That was 2015,
Okay.
2016,
Okay.
yeah, around there. Because immediately I left from there and came here in 2016. I shot the feature.
Okay.
So I wrote the story sitting down. My brain's always running on new
Same.
content. Yes, as a new producer director, no one hands you something, say go and direct this yet. You have to write your own things and then direct it, and then people see like, "Oh, he wrote that and he directed it," and then eventually, hopefully, people will start giving you their scripts.
Right.
So I'm always writing something, and I wrote the story. I'm sitting there brainstorming, and I want to come up with something compelling, something that no one has seen before. And that's the whole point of the whole thing, not to copy people. Of course, there's nothing you can do that hasn't been done, but if you have your own style to it.
Right.
And so I wrote Child Soldiers, and I said, what if I had these former child soldiers who are today's successful people in the States? Unless they told you they were former child soldiers, you would never know, because they have maybe a master's degree, a PhD, and they're working at this great firm or this great company. But then they tell you about their past, and you're like, wow, I would have never guessed.
Right.
And so that's what Child Soldiers is all about. It talks about former child soldiers who are today productive members of society.
How do you find those people, though?
It's pretty easy. Fortunately, for me being born in Liberia, I know a lot of people. Okay, who had those. But this is not just about Liberia. It's about child soldiers all around the world. But when this project is picked up, it's easy to find people. If a network posts, hey, we're looking for former child soldiers,
Right.
your names will be changed in this project. We don't want people going back to work and saying, oh, that was you over there. We want them to tell their stories. And if you've seen like some of those shows, Locked Up Abroad, the FBI Files, and you see how they will sometimes cover the faces of undercover FBI agents, but they're still talking.
Right.
So in the series, people, because these people have good jobs and they're now good people, they have families, we change their names and we actually obscure their faces so you don't see who they are, but then it is followed by reenactment.
Right.
So even sometimes the narrator can be an actor.
So it's almost like American Most Wanted, how they do
Thank
that,
you.
or
How they
Unsolved Mysteries and
yes,
stuff like that.
stuff like that.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it is. So we have reenactments of actual stories, and the people telling their own stories could be sitting there with, the light covering their face just to keep their identity from people. But the stories are very compelling, and for the first time you will hear a child soldier tell you how he became a child soldier, like what he was doing that day when the war hit his town, city, or country, whatever it is, and he will tell you some of the things he went through before he was recruited as a soldier, how he committed his first kill, and what turned him around, what made him wanted to leave the war, and how he left the war, how he ended up in the United States, how he became who he is today. And we're talking about guys who are maybe scientists and lawyers and stuff, and they'll tell you what kind of turned them around to becoming who they are.
Wow.
And that's what the series follows. It's a different person each episode.
Well, that's a truly amazing story, man.
Thank
I
you.
remember. I appreciate you showing me the screening
Yes.
for the trailer. That was amazing. You told me you actually met one of the snipers.
Right.
Right on that battlefield. And tell me about this sniper. I mean, I'm sure just meeting him was like whoa, I heard so much about you. Like,
Right.
Jesus.
So in Liberia during the war, there's a building called the E.J. Raw building, and that building, there was a guy up on the top there. Everybody heard about this sniper who was just bad. No one could cross the breach, but nobody knew who he was. And being there as a kid, I heard about this sniper. And so recently, when I was in Liberia to shoot Child Soldiers, the documentary series, I'm with some friends, and everyone is partying. We're having a good time, and there are people all inside there. And someone just said, "Oh, this guy passed us," and he kind of speaks to my entourage, the guys that are standing with me.
Right.
And shook hands, and he goes, "Oh, that's my brother right here, and we just came back, blah, blah, blah." He came from the States, but he's headed back, and that was the very night I was leaving to come back here.
Right.
And so this guy passed us with this girl, and he goes up to the counter, and he's talking, and then my boy like, "Oh, remember the sniper on that? That's him right there." I'm like, "You kidding me, right?"
Right. Oh, that's the same right there.
Yeah,
Jim?
like the sniper, the guy that was on the bridge, like, yeah, that's him. So I'm like, what? So I'm looking at him, and he's like this. So I went back there and shook his hand. I'm like, pleasure to meet you, this and that. But that's now hearing who he is, knowing his story.
Right.
Now, and there are lots of people like that with stories like that all around Liberia. And you see them, they're very kind people. They're people who just got caught up in bad situations. They're not bad people. It's just when you have a civil war for 14 years, you can only remain civilian for too long.
Right.
Because you have to protect yourself and your families, and most of these guys had to do what they had to do to survive, and that's what it was. But now that there's no war, you go and speak with them, and they're just all kind people, very nice people. I was welcomed, and I had not been home in about almost 20 years when I went back. So it was like coming into, even though it's my country, it was like coming back into a new country, and I was just welcomed. Even though I experienced the war there for 9 years myself, I was there 9 years of the war.
Wow.
Before I left, yes.
Did you lose a lot of family members throughout that time?
Yes, I did. I did lose a few relatives. Yes, I did lose someone who, an uncle who was very close to me. I actually lived with him as a kid. That's my dad's oldest brother, older brother. With him, he was killed. He was killed, burned.
I'm sorry, man.
Tires, and we heard, and when he was killed, I had just left from there too.
Oh, so you were already gone?
No, I was where he was killed, I had just left that place.
Oh, like
So,
moments.
yes.
Oh, okay.
You're like few hours
Okay.
because we were migrating because when the war started, most people were walking. So we travel on foot from one place to another.
Right.
And we walked from 72nd to Bonneville, from Bonneville to Fender. And on Fender campus is where my uncle was. So I met him that night. We had talked. We spoke. He was happy to see me. You know, he gave me some food. I ate. And the next day we heard that the other forces were coming to take over that place.
Oh, man.
So my aunt I was living with, we decided to continue traveling. So we went to the next town, which was Dusa.
Right.
And then when we left, the other forces came in. Invaded that place. I had just left my uncle. And that's when we heard the news that he was killed in that war there. They grabbed him and they actually set him on fire.
Damn, man.
So it was a hit for me because I actually lived with him. He taught me as a kid. He actually owned a school. Yeah, he was a very brilliant guy, smart. He owned an entire school. So, and I was a student in his school. And because my uncle owned the school, I had to be on point.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so
you don't get no special
I don't
privileges.
get no special privileges, and actually every example was set with me.
Right.
So my uniform had to be clean, my grades had to be. So he actually pushed me. So a lot of things I do today, I learned from my uncle, my late uncle, because my dad was already in the States at the time. So yeah.
Gotcha. You know, I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds like he definitely worked hard to make you the part of the man you are today, if not all.
Yes.
You know, so that's what's up, man. So when are you gonna do your story? I mean, as you're telling me what you've been through and what you've seen and what you overcame,
Right.
You know, there definitely has to be a story on you.
Absolutely, man. As a matter of fact, when I was in college studying criminal justice, I have like a whole memoirs. I wrote, and that was in the early stages of computers, so it was like this big thing. It was on a floppy disk. I'm still thinking how to
Floppy disk, wow.
get it off that.
Yeah.
And I wrote that, but you know, I'm sure my story will be told one day once I can establish myself as the person that I know I can be. And then my story will come in. But you are right. I do have a story that needs to be told.
Yeah,
but it
great
will be
story,
even
man.
more interesting as soon as I become this director that I want to be.
Yeah.
So from where I was to the guy with a blockbuster all over Hollywood, now my story will become even more interesting.
Right, yeah, you definitely want to spark more interest, have that big star power.
Absolutely.
You know, so when you put it out there, and it's like everybody's
Everyone's gonna
or be aware of you.
Right.
That's what's up, man. Well, I'm excited to see it. You know, I hope I can be a part of it as well. You know, definitely help you out. Oh man, so are you accepting submissions from up and coming writers or producers that would like to get in business that are inspiring to be like yourself?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I look at, and there have been a few people who sent scripts to me and scripts to me, and I've read their scripts and stuff. And the biggest thing is finding financing for these projects. If someone comes up with a story and they know the connections for us all to get financing for it, I'm definitely in for it. And once the story is compelling, if there's anything we have to do to polish it, I work with them, and I'm totally open to submissions. Yes.
Got it. So where can they contact you for that
Well,
type
you
of
can-
information?
You can definitely contact me on stonz84@gmail.com. You can send me a direct email, or rufuswalters84@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram at STONZ84. You can find me, or you type in STONZ Walters and I will pop up as well. Yes.
Definitely, man. Well, it was great having you on the show,
Thank
man.
you, man.
I enjoy your
Thank you
story,
so much.
man. I
Yes.
enjoy the stories you're telling as well as your own, and I look forward to seeing that biopic on you one day. You know, hopefully 10 years, maybe sooner than that, whatever the case may be. But I have no doubt you're destined for great things.
Thank
Just
you, man.
continue on the path and continue applying that hard work and that pressure to this industry, and I'm sure great things will happen for you, my
Thank
brother.
you very much. And let me not just forget one thing, because since we didn't talk about that, I wanted to mention that Child Soldier, the documentary series, would not be possible without my business partner, Chris Henson.
Chris.
Yes, Chris Henson.
Yes.
Because this guy, man, he's just an awesome person.
Okay.
You know, I met Chris in Apex, and he actually even got Warbrothers to Akon first. So he got that to Akon. Chris has been helping me with everything that I'm doing. He believes in me. And here is the thing about Chris.
How'd you meet him?
I met Chris in Apex building, as I said, when I was
Just
working the
walking
front
by?
desk.
Okay.
He's just always this cool guy on the front desk. When you work the front desk, you get to know the names of everyone in here.
Right.
But Chris he's always this dude who just walks by, and he's just a cool cat.
Yeah.
You know, he don't put himself up as being like this most important guy, or like, hey, I live at Apex, so I'm like this. No, he brings himself down. He's
humble.
cool. Yeah, he's very, very humble. Very humble. And so Chris and I just started chatting for a while. We talked, a few times. He was here when we were working on The Forgiven, but we just always started chatting. And one day we're taking a walk, and he's like, oh, let's go grab a drink. We're going down to LA Live, talking, and we just hit it off from there. We just been friends ever since. He's like, I'm going to Hong Kong next week, and I'm going to shoot Akon's performance there. He's going to be performing. I can pass the script on to him. I'm like, you kidding me? He goes, yeah. Boom, he goes up there, he meets with Akon, pass the script on to Akon.
Kept his word.
He kept his word. He always keeps his word. That's the thing. But I showed him Child Soldier. He saw the little teaser that I shot back in 2016. I shot the little teaser.
Right.
I gave it to him, like, bro, this is really cool, man. I'm like, yeah. So I sent him the treatment, everything. Chris, it's okay. He goes, I think we should do this. I'm like, you kidding? He's like, yeah, we should do this. So we start to go into production. We're in pre-production. We're looking to shoot in Malibu, somewhere in the woods, blah, blah, blah. He goes, man, wouldn't it be cool if you actually went to Africa and shot this on the ground? I'm like, tell me about it.
Right.
He goes, you're going.
Okay. So he financed that?
He financed everything. Purchased the ticket for me to go, paid everything over there. Chris paid for everything. And next thing I knew, a country that I had not been to in almost 20 years, he made me go there for the first time in almost 20 years.
Wow.
He paid for it, and now he took care of all of the post-production and everything, and now we're shopping. So
hey, man.
I want to say a big thank you to my man Chris, and we're very happy to have Bruce Cork on board as well as a producer. He's an Emmy Award winning producer.
Right.
Yeah, so we have him on board as well on the project, and we're doing okay.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, shout out to Chris Henson,
Yeah,
man. He's definitely
yes.
a great dude. I
Great
mean, we
dude.
actually interacted because we're both from New York, so
Right,
we had
right.
that conversation, and then we just
Yeah.
started building.
Cool.
But yeah, man. But I'm glad you linked up with some good, decent people,
Yes,
and
man.
that have similar interests like
Absolutely.
you, and you guys are gonna grow together, man. I see it, man.
Definitely. And now you're in the loop too now.
Oh, of course,
You know,
man.
another
I'm
cool
always in
person
the
that
loop,
we- that's
man.
it.
Again, I'm in here all day, so I know how it is to kind of network with people
Right.
in passing, and then you find out what they do and kind of try to intertwine
There
the
you go.
interest.
Yes.
And but we're definitely gonna do some great things together,
Definitely,
man.
man.
I just hope I can be a part of it and contribute as much as I can.
Anytime you're welcome aboard, man. Thank you so much for having me, letting me tell my story here. I really appreciate it from the heart. I appreciate you.
God
Right.
bless, man.
God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sleep is for Billionaires, the podcast. I am your host, Johnny Vegas, STONZ Walters. Make sure you look out for the new film, Child Soldiers, coming soon. Hopefully to a theater near you, Netflix near you, Hulu near you, everything near you. Stay tuned for more episodes to come. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Get that photo. You got the photos?
Get that right there. Yeah. There you go. All right. All right. What happened?
Didn't pay for this.
Yeah. You got it? You got
You got
another
it?
one? Got another one. Do it like this, landscape. Yeah, there you go. Let's get another one. Good. Thank you.
Right. That's what I'm
All
talking
right, man.
about.
Thanks, man.
Perfect.
Appreciate you.
Oh, man, appreciate you. How long was that? Perfect.
Yeah.
25 minutes.